So, welcome to Northern Powerhouses, our business success stories series of interviews, where we discuss with local business leaders their backgrounds, their successes, their challenges, and what's really driving them forwards. And this afternoon, I'm delighted to have with us Simon Cornell, who's director at SC1 Property. So, firstly, Simon, thank you for spending some time with us. And if you'd like to introduce yourself, your business, what you do, how you help people, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks, Chris. Well, I'm Simon Cornell from SC1 Property. So I'm the director here and business owner. So we're an architectural practice that predominantly undertakes disabled adaptations.
Brilliant.
So we work on behalf of legal teams, private individuals who have been involved in either clinical negligence or personal injury.
Right. Okay.
So we help them sort of find properties, adapt properties, and then subsequently move into those
Mm.
properties. So that's our primary focus of the business. But we also do architecture as well, in terms of domestic architecture, commercial architecture as well. So, but
Right.
predominantly it's the sort of adaptation business that we
Yeah.
undertake.
Wonderful. What a great thing to be able to help people do. I'm sure if especially if they go, from able-bodied to non-able-bodied and have, be able to provide that sort of service. So maybe, to help us more a little bit understand more, if you could t talk us through a little bit about your background, Simon, how you got into business and why this particular one and this specialism for you.
Yeah, okay. Well, I left school at 16, and I was a bit of a crossroad really. I wasn't sure whether to go and get a job or whether I was going to go to sort of further education. And I remember going into sort of the job centre and seeing somebody advertised as a draftsman.
Yes,
I went home and spoke to my mum and said, what is a draftsman? Because I didn't know. Um, and she said, well, it's somebody who sort of produces drawings, and it was a structural engineers. So I said, oh, I quite like the idea of that. So it was either that or go and work at, I don't know if you remember Quick Save.
yep,
Um, I was going to work on the tills at Quick Save. So
very
I
much so.
sort of decided to go down that avenue.
Brilliant.
And yeah, started work at a structural engineers when I was sort of 16-year-old, and sort of started an apprenticeship. So, I mean, from there, I went to college, got my sort of ONC, HNC qualifications, and then qualified. I think it was the year 2000, which, yeah, frighteningly a long time ago. But anyway, so yeah, got my qualifications, and then I moved from that practice to a company in Leeds,
Yep.
and it was back in 2002, I think, and I was really interested in sort of the residential aspect, and not at that point, not a lot of people were actually undertaking house extensions, new build properties, refurbishments, that type of thing.
Yep.
So I kind of saw a little bit of a gap in the market. And I was 22 at the time, and I thought, well, may as well give it a go,
Brilliant.
set up a business and see how we get on. And
Brilliant.
yeah, set that up in 2002,
Yep.
and ran that business for sort of 20 years. And really sort of did all sorts of things, grew the business to a point, and then recession hit, and went through quite a period as everybody else
Yep.
did.
Yep.
Um, and then unfortunately, so back in 2019, sort of had to close that business through sort of a couple of projects that didn't quite work as
Yep.
the way we wanted it to work, and sort of some financial issues that kind of arose
Yep.
from the recession and everything else. So it was a really tough period. And then set up SC1 Property. to undertake sort of the adaptation type projects,
Yeah,
um, and really not sort of look back since, to be honest.
brilliant,
And so here we are, and we've got a really nice business that's doing
brilliant.
really well.
Well done. It's it's often a difficult topic to talk about, you know, bit when businesses fail, but it is part of business. It's, you know, there are so many. Um, I was literally talking to a client this morning that's um, she's not been an owner or a director historically, and and I said to her, I said, look, you know, she was saying, look, you know, we've only got so much business available to us in terms of cash funding to fund ongoing overheads and stuff, and I said, so in my own experience and as a business coach, I rarely see a business that's got more than 3 to 6 months worth of onward working capital in effect. And in
Mm.
fact, if you have too much more than that, probably your financial guy should be doing something with it. And I said, so,
Yeah,
so you know, it's if you have too much money, it's pointless. But so it's part of running a business. And if a hiccup
mm.
like a recession, we've had. I mean, again, I was talking to somebody recently and said, up until about a week ago, I was saying I've never seen three significant events within a sort of a 6 year period of Brexit, um, COVID, and at that point the war in Ukraine coming together, and now we've got a fourth situation, and you know
Yeah.
that's what it is, and it's I'm guessing, and we might come to it a bit later on. You know, resilience has clearly got a part to play in your character and your identity to go again.
Yeah, I think that's it. And I had a long period of time where I was sort of ashamed of it in a way. You feel like a failure, and it took a while to sort of pick myself up from that,
Yes.
um, as well as sort of going through a divorce and the challenges that that kind of adds to things. So it was a really sort of tough period,
Yes.
um, and as you say, I learned a lot about sort of how resilient and
Yeah.
at the time I didn't think it, but strong that I actually was to sort of pick myself up and actually try and sort of push on and keep going forward. Really,
Yeah.
that's the key to it.
Brilliant. And it's why only 4% of the business of the UK population own businesses. It's a tough gig because it's,
It's
you
not
know,
easy. Is it? Yeah, it's not easy.
it's a bloody tough gig. So congratulations on you know everything you've achieved. You know, especially going again because that's and yeah, I mean it isn't that surprising how many people are on the second, third businesses because it is a learning curve and it doesn't take a lot to unbalance a business in most situations. I would suggest so. Brilliant. So I hope you do take that as a lot of celebration of where you are. It's really important that you do.
I've learned to sort of deal with it. Yeah, yeah.
Good man. Brilliant. So alongside, obviously, that was a very significant issue. But looking over your whole career, what are some of the other key issues you've had to overcome? Would you say?
So I think that, yeah, that as I've said, the failed business, a marriage breakup, and those have been that was a really challenging period. But I think having at a young age, I saw my mum and dad. They were a registered nurse and a logistics manager. So, they really had a tremendous work ethic,
Yeah.
and that my work ethic I take from them really. So they really worked hard and really hard for us, for me and my brother, when we were younger. So that sort of set me up to really sort of push on, and you want something, you're going to have to work hard to get it,
Yeah.
and I think that was a really sort of early lesson for me,
Yeah.
to really, yeah, work hard, and you'll get, hopefully get what you want out of life, I suppose.
Brilliant.
But I mean, in terms of sort of growing up, happy childhood, played football, My dad sort of came and sort of coached the football team, and we played football, and
Brilliant.
that was really good, really sporty. And then sort of went into sort of work life then
Yeah.
after 16, and then, like I say, set up the business in 2002 when I was 22, which yeah was risky, I suppose, but
Oh,
at
100%.
that stage,
Yeah.
a 22-year-old, you don't have as
Tough
much
years.
fear as what you have now, really. So
Yeah, absolutely.
um, so you're sort of a bit naive, but sort of good naive, I think,
Yes.
to a point.
It does remind me actually. I remember our founder, who's a really successful guy. He said to me years ago that he believed he was as successful as he is because he'd made more mistakes than anybody else he knew. Not
Yeah.
despite it, it was like it was the willingness to go and go again and accept that problems and failures are routes to success.
So many
And
mistakes. Yeah.
yeah, it's really cool. So, what would you say are the biggest things you've learned about growing a successful business? I mean, obviously, overcoming challenges is one, but what else are some of the key things you've learned over this quite significant period?
So I think learning to accept sort of the failure aspect, and
Yeah.
making sure that you learn from those failures, and don't do it again, because
Yes.
that's
Yes.
stupidity.
That's
Um,
correct.
but yeah, I think learning from that, realizing that if you don't go out and do it, it's not going to happen.
Yep.
Things just don't arrive, and
No.
it's I would say it's probably a recent thing, sort of in the last 10 years, where I've actually sort of thought to myself, if I don't do it, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And you have to do it. If you want where you want to be going, you have to do it. And yeah, that's one lesson I've kind of taken from, the I wouldn't say failures, the mistakes, and the learnings from that is actually just, you want something, go out and get it,
Yep.
and don't stop until you do get there.
Yep.
So yeah, sort of showing resilience and tenacity, making sure that you're pushing as hard as you possibly can, and
Yep.
you will make mistakes, and that's just that's life and that's business, isn't it? So
it, it's part of life. I remember somebody likening it to teaching the kids to walk or helping your kids to learn to walk. If they get up and they take 3 steps and fall in the face, we don't
yeah,
go, oh, I don't think you're cut out for this walking
we
lark.
won't do that
No,
again.
just get up. Give it another
Yeah.
go, and that's, but unfortunately, I think as adults, we tend to be harder on ourselves, if we're not
Mm.
careful and not. But no, I think it's brilliant, and yeah, just accept it is wonderful. And Simon, you think you're aware we're a business coaching organisation. I'm keen to know who the best coaches you've worked with, whether that's business, sport. You mentioned sport earlier, business, sport, life in general. Who has had the biggest impact on you?
Well, I currently work with a business coach, Helen, who's been over the last, I think that was 18 months that we've been working together. Um, she's really good. She
Brilliant.
helps me sort of figure things out.
Yep.
She doesn't, well, as it's a matter of just sort of prompting things, and really clever how you sort of get to the point where you figured it out yourself, but you
Yes.
just needed that little bit of assistance.
Yep.
So yeah, Helen's been really good. I had a chap who I used to work with when I first started work, called Charles, and he sort of took me under his wing, and really from a from an architectural and technical perspective, really helped sort of push me forward in terms
Brilliant.
of how I sort of approach things, the technical knowledge, and learned so much from him.
Brilliant.
So he was really sort of pivotal. And then over the last sort of 10 or 15 years, um, uh, Dave, who's a client of mine, and still is a client, has been a client for probably about 20 years now. Um, just sort of listening to him and seeing how his business has evolved, 'cause he's a really successful guy, and just looking at how he evolves,
Yes.
looking at the mistakes that he's made and looking
Yeah.
at, business failings that he's had, and actually how he's sort of evolved and changed his business to
Brilliant.
something that's absolutely huge. And, I really respect that and not cling on to that, but actually sort of take a lot of
Absolutely.
sort of learnings from that, really. Um,
I think
so yeah, yeah,
sorry, I was just saying, I think learning from others is really valuable. It's, the people that have been where, have made those learnings. If we can learn from their learnings, that's accelerating the opportunity, isn't it? Rather than having to do it all ourselves and learn everything the hard way. I don't think it's certainly not the easiest way of doing it, and it's not really
no,
the fastest. Um,
no.
so, and
But yeah, no, those guys have been really,
brilliant,
yeah, really helpful to me.
wonderful. I think it's really interesting you described how Helen helps you. For me, true coaching is starts with the proposition that we've all got everything we need inside ourselves already. Our job
Yeah,
as a coach is just to help people get it out, get it out of them. And I think that from that perspective, it's so valuable because great coaches aren't there to tell you what to do; they're just to help you find the best way forward.
yeah.
By
I
challenge,
mean,
sometimes by introducing some ideas, but it's more about for me I think sometimes quite often challenging the belief about this is the only way we can do it,
yeah,
and just say, look, what other options might there be, or what other ways might we look at this in a different way? And I think that just helps people really find the optimal way forward, which is so key. Um,
yeah. I mean, I've never thought that I needed a coach, um, and it was only through talking to one of my very good friend, and he introduced me to Helen because he'd worked with Helen before, and he just said, you'll be a really good fit.
Brilliant,
And, yeah, that has been the case, and it's really been, yeah, very valuable to me
brilliant.
personally as well.
Yeah, brilliant, brilliant. And whether it's from any of the people you mentioned or anyone else, have you picked up any favourite quotes or sayings about business or success or life in general that you can share with us?
Yeah, I mean, there is one actually, and I think it was John Lennon who actually said it, but it was attributed to him, and it was everything will be okay. If it's not okay, it's not the end.
Brilliant, brilliant.
And it was at that point in time when I heard that, it was going through that rough period, and
Brilliant.
it really sort of resonated with me that actually, do you know what? If it's not okay, you've still got a chance. If that makes
Absolutely.
sense. And yeah,
It-
it was
Brilliant.
interesting at that point in time as well.
Just the right time. It's really interesting sometimes how a particular quote, we might hear 100, but it's the one that's relevant to us right now that really helps. There's a flip side, a slight flip side of the same thing, the same meaning, but in a slightly different way. From Winston Churchill, who said, if you find yourself going through hell, just keep going.
Keep going,
Which I
yeah.
love because it's like, why would we stay? It's obvious in hindsight, but why would we stay there? But that's what happens. And Simon, similarly, any favourite books or podcasts you can recommend about business success or just things that you enjoy?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a big reader, so I don't read many books, but certainly podcasts. Diary of a CEO.
Great.
I listened to that, Stephen Bartlett. Um, I find that really interesting because of the sort of variation in
Yes.
people that he interviews.
Yes.
So yeah, I find that really, really interesting. I don't really listen to any others other than that because there's so many of them and there's such a variety. So
You sort of don't need to, do you? It's covering
no,
so many different topics. He's almost sorted the topics out for you, and you can just go, okay, yeah, I'm interested about diet today, or whatever those other things might be. And just on the stay on the learning front for a second, what would you say you've learned about yourself throughout your journey so far, Simon?
I think resilience, realizing actually how strong I am, and it feels a bit uncomfortable to say that if I'm honest, but you do. when you do go through sort of those challenging times and hopefully come out the other side, you do realize actually, do you know what? I'm actually all right.
Yeah,
I'm all right. I can, you can do this. I think, as I've said before, going out and making that difference, and taking that first step, um, is the key thing.
yeah,
And if you don't do that, you keep on doing the same thing, you're going to get the same outcomes. So, um, sorry about
it's all right.
that.
It's all good.
So yeah, I think, uh, be as self-confident as you can be. Um, whilst you're your biggest, you can criticize yourself and to make yourself better, actually give yourself a pat on the back every so often and realize that, you have done some good stuff and, don't be so hard on yourself because I am my biggest critic, 100%. But, there are a lot of good stuff as well. And
Yes.
it's recognizing that.
I completely agree with that, and it's one thing we do with all our clients is consistent celebration, um, because I believe there's two things. One is I believe it builds resilience in general anyway. It supports resilience because it's when we get something wrong. If we've balanced it up with five things we did well, then all of a sudden it doesn't feel so bad.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
but
exactly.
but interestingly enough, my coach is. I'm just reading his book at the moment, which he's just published, and there's a lot of scientific evidence about consciously reviewing our successes helps us with continuing that. It's almost like you create the habit of success. So I think it's a very British thing not to celebrate our successes, but I think it's
Mm.
actually not helping us to continue that journey. And I think, again, if you know something is good for you, then it seems a bit crazy not to do it. However difficult it can be in a self what's that? I can't remember the phrase, but when we're not supposed to do that according to our Britishness. But
Yeah, that's it. British stiff upper lip and all that. Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. And something like, we've got a definition of a true business in Action Coach, which basically is a commercial profitable enterprise that works without its owners. And I'm just keen to know what your thoughts are on that, especially being an owner manager run business at the moment.
In terms of what? Sorry.
As a definition of a business, it's almost like it needs to be profitable, commercially profitable, but typically it's not a business until it can. I always use the word can, not has to, but can operate without its owners, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's funny you say that actually, because my missus said to me, I think it was about sort of 9 or 12 months ago. What you need to work on is actually getting to the point where you can take a month off from the business and actually it
Absolutely.
still functions. And again, that it was a real kind of not light bulb moment, but it was a light bulb moment where I thought, actually, yeah, she's got a really good point.
Yeah,
Because if if I can't do that, then I will be a slave to the business, and
yeah,
that's going to stop it from sort of proceeding forward and
yeah.
actually doing this thing that I want it to be, and really successful and being able to deliver things for clients that to the best ability that we can. And that has stuck in my
Mm.
head, with the sort of recruitment process as well, sort of come from. 'Cause we started recruiting properly in January last year, so there was four of us to
Right.
start. And we sort of built things up to a point, and then we're now at sort of nine
Brilliant.
people.
Brilliant.
So in 12 months, which it's made a massive difference. But all those people that are in the business are, one, they're nice people.
Brilliant.
Two, they're very good at what they do, and probably better at things than I am.
Brilliant.
So I've not been
Perfect.
scared to bring people in who are actually more talented than me in certain areas, and that's been really informative for me. But just back to your point, I think actually being able to try and let people push on
Yeah.
and run certain aspects of the business, I think, is key to it. So it's not just about one person, is it? That's the thing.
No. it I've
Can't be.
it's quite a difficult thing. What I find, and we do quite a lot of work with this, is that the mindset change. We get to a certain point, and you sort of almost alluded to it yourself about your upbringing, and most people are brought up in the way of, if you work hard, you'll be successful. 100% correct. 100% correct. The challenge is we get into the mindset of I can only be successful if I'm the person that's working the hardest, and that becomes the trap of then not creating something that can work without us, because the first the first thought when there's an issue is, what do I do? Well,
Yeah.
and it's a total mindset change, and it's not like it's a wrong mindset, because to get to here we have to believe and we have to
Difficult.
work on the
Yeah.
basis it's about how hard we work, but it's overcoming that change. And I often talk about, I heard a lady speak a few years ago, a lady called Jennifer Byrne, who was ex-CTO at Microsoft going back a few years. So, she knows her stuff. She's working and investing in lots of different businesses at the moment. But she said in the US, when they recruit C-suite execs, that top lot, is they actively test them on their ability not to do things.
Okay. Interesting.
And I was in a room of
Yeah.
business owners and leaders, and you could see them all go. There was this huge confusion in the room, and for me, she was saying, "Look, our job, once we get to a certain level, our job is about not doing it ourselves. It's about getting other people to do things, and
Mm.
and having that natural event of, yeah, this isn't my job. That needs fixing. I'll find the part." But it's, as I say, it's such a hard thing.
So difficult. I mean,
It
I was guilty, yeah, I'm still guilty to some points of sort of
yes,
holding on to things and actually, that's not the way that I need to be doing things, and it takes a lot to get out of that,
it
really.
really does. But I mean, we are culturally developed in that way. As I say, how harder you work, the more successful you be. If you
Mm.
want to do it, if you want to get it done right, do it yourself. All these phrases, have some sense to them, but they also don't help business owners, in my opinion, because
No, agreed.
so it's an interesting one. So looking forward then, I mean, and congratulations, that's over more than doubling your workforce into a month. So that must have been a amazing journey. And I guess then, looking to the future, what does the future look like for you guys, and what challenges do you think you might face, if any, Simon?
Yeah, I mean, really positive to be honest. We've got a really good order book in terms of clients and projects. So, got some really exciting projects that are coming to fruition now.
Brilliant.
Um, so it's looking really positive. I think in terms of growth, I think because of our growth last year, we've now got a team that is really kind of a strong core of people. And I think what we need to do now is just to stay where we are currently and just sort of organically grow from that point because we've got that real kind of solid core.
Brilliant.
So I think we refine what we're doing. We're constantly looking at processes, how we can do things when challenges appear.
Yeah.
We're always sort of analysing those and seeing how we can improve on that and how we can mitigate the risk for clients and things like
Brilliant.
that. With construction and building, there's things happen on a daily basis,
Yeah.
and nothing goes swimmingly well.
No.
As if you've ever done a house extension or renovation, it's just that the industry is not straightforward,
Yeah.
and it is stressful. But if we can try and sort of strive to get as close to perfection as we possibly can in terms of our service and how we service clients, then we're going to do all right, I think.
Brilliant.
And clients will appreciate what we're doing for them, I think,
Brilliant.
and we'll get the best outcomes for them.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's looking really positive. We've got some really nice jobs, and yeah, future's looking good, but challenging, shall we say?
Wonderful. Yeah, no, 100%. Another phrase I picked up from he's our ex-CEO, funnily enough, for our business. Um, and he said to me years ago that the job of a business owner is to solve problems. and so back, basically said if you it was very direct Australian. He basically said if you don't like problems, it's probably not best to be a business owner because it's
Exactly right, but yeah,
it's just like and what I've come to believe over time, Simon, is actually problems are typically caused by growth. So if we don't have any problems, we're not growing as fast as we could. If that, now
yeah,
sometimes we might not want to because it's like I've okay, a little bit of easy going for a while might be the right thing, but in general, I think if we've not got problems, it might be want to look at how do we need to push it a bit further. So and it's almost like, but what I think that helps with is therefore embracing problems. Great. Problems are coming because we're pushing the envelope. If
yeah.
if if we're just doing the same old stuff and we're really good at, we're not pushing ourselves. And that, I say, might be the right thing right now, but in general, if growth is the plan, then let's get some more problems on the agenda.
Yeah, I mean, as much as it feels uncomfortable
Yes,
to sort of embrace that, we had a particular issue yesterday, which, we all sat around the table and we resolved, and we've got the right outcome for the client. So, you know,
brilliant,
those issues will arise on a daily basis. It's just
brilliant,
how you deal with that and try and mitigate that risk for clients. I think that's the.
wonderful. Wonderful. So, final question: what would be the best advice you could give an 18-year-old you if you could go back and do that, Simon?
Oof, yeah, that's a tricky one. I think. Have more confidence, have more confidence in your ability. If don't be afraid to put your head above the parapet. Really sort of go for it. If you want to get somewhere, you know you work hard and you get somewhere. I think looking back in hindsight, having sort of people on board earlier.
Yes.
I think, in terms of employing the right people for the right things, I
Yep.
think that would be something that I would probably give myself that advice.
Yep.
Um, and yeah, just go for it. I think
Love it.
you just got to go for it because if you know, yeah, I know it sounds a bit cliche, but we're only here for so long, and if you can make a difference while you're here, then yeah, that's got to be
Absolutely.
a good thing, hasn't it?
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Very sound advice, and especially, given the challenges you've had, it's really great to hear you say those sorts of things, if that makes sense. Because I think for anyone that's hasn't been through those challenges or are fearful of those sorts of challenges, there is there's light at the other side of these things. So let's perhaps just be a little less scared of those things because it's somebody I remember one of the people I asked for a quote from said we've all survived 100% of our challenges so far,
Yeah.
and it's just that brilliant.
Right. Yeah,
And
it's
it's
right.
great, great way of looking at it. Simon, it's been really fascinating touch, and I really do appreciate your openness and candor about the things you've gone through, and I really applaud the fact that you're clearly even more successful than you were before. So, thank you so much for sharing some of your thoughts with us, and be great to swing by another 6 to 12 months and just see how those things are continuing to grow. But for now, if for anyone that's watching would like to get in touch with you or SC1 Property, what would be the best way of doing that?
Yeah, either by telephone or email. So can email directly at sc@sc1property.co.uk, or give me a call on my mobile 07900 931 443 or the office.
Brilliant.
Yeah, no, that's great. Thanks,
Thank you
Chris.
so much.
Really
Let's say
appreciate it.
it's been really great, and to say let's have another chat again in the 6 to 12 months and just see what the next steps are. But for now, thank you so much.
Perfect. Thanks, Chris.
Cheers.